Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Linda Hadley, Dean of the Turner College, for any of you who may not know me. But how many of you are here for the first time for one of our executive speakers? Anybody here for the first time? Okay, so there are a few.
Uh-oh, probably gonna be your last.
Okay, so there are a few of you who are here for the first time. So I want to say to those of you who are here for the first time that we do this each year, we do it each semester, and we attempt to have about 3 executive speakers, and sometimes we bring an entrepreneur. We have an entrepreneur in there, but it's our executive speaker series, and it's our effort to bring, we say, the boardroom into the classroom. And so because we have enjoyed a very close relationship with the business community, we have been able to bring some outstanding executives and entrepreneurs here to speak to the students in the Turner College. So you're really fortunate to have that opportunity, to have them come and share their experiences with you. Now, some of them come and they talk a lot about their companies, and others come and they talk a lot about their careers and their career path. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from you that says that you love to hear them talk about themselves and talk about how they got from being sitting in a classroom like you, from being young business students to being executives. And so we've asked our speaker today to do just that. Our speaker today is a Synovus Division CEO. He is currently the regional CEO, and he actually manages bank presidents in 11 markets throughout Georgia, Florida, and Alabama.
That's right. Yep.
Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. What is interesting is that he started his career in an entry-level position as a management associate. And you started at CB&T originally, here in Columbus, as a management associate. In 2006, he didn't tell me this, but I found out, he was named by Georgia Trend magazine to the 40 under 40 list. So he was a starter at a young age. But as I said, he started his career at CB&T as a management associate in 1989, and he has held a number of positions in banking that prepared him for his career now as the regional CEO. He went to Florida State University, and he has an undergraduate degree in finance. And he makes Columbus his home. He lives here with his wife and 3 children. We are so fortunate to have Mark Lane, our CEO from Synovus, to come, a regional CEO from Synovus, to come and speak with us today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Well, good morning. The first thing I'll say is I'm going to consider this more of a chat than a speech. Best I can do is come up with some bullet points and keep me on task a little bit. I might ramble if I don't watch it. So this is not going to be a sort of super intense speech from my opinion. It might be boring, but it's not going to be super intense. So yes, I did start my career here at CB&T. First of all, when we get to Q&A, you're not allowed to ask about Florida State football. It's totally off. That's off limits this year. We can't do it. Now, my wife went to Georgia, so we can talk about Georgia if y'all want to. Interestingly, so I grew up in South Georgia, but I was born in a place called Hollywood, Florida, which is basically Fort Lauderdale, South Florida. And one of the side notes, you can probably tell that I have a little bit of a southern accent, but I moved from Hollywood to a place called Nashville, Georgia. Probably never heard of it. About Valdosta. Y'all heard of Valdosta? Really small town near Valdosta, and so my culture shock is I had never heard the word ain't in my entire life being from South Florida. When I moved to Nashville, I had to learn really quick or I wasn't going to fit in. So when you think about being a chameleon and fitting your environment, I guess I figured that out somehow. Did graduate with a degree in finance from FSU in 1989. I'm embarrassed to say that I was an accounting major for like that long. Accounting didn't like me very much, so I switched to finance, and I guess it paid off. And Linda was right. I've held a lot of different jobs at Synovus. Started as a management associate, worked in the branches, worked in credit analysis, which is underwriting and we might say crunching numbers, that kind of thing. I've been a commercial banker. Been a correspondent banker, which means I interacted with other banks to help them get business done. I been a market president. Actually, during the economic crisis, I took on a side job in my part-time with Synovus, helping with distressed asset disposition, which was not a lot of fun. Regional CEO, now I have this divisional CEO responsibility. So really what I do is spend most of my time helping other leaders be successful. CB&T here in town reports to me, and then various markets in South Georgia, East Alabama, all the panhandle of Florida. Get spread a little bit thin sometimes, but and I'll give you some thoughts on leadership and my 2 cents on that kind of stuff as we ease into it. I did want to give you a couple of tidbits on banking. I know y'all are approaching graduation at some point. You're trying to think what you want to do with your life, what you want to do next, and my feeling on why banking. Why think about that as a career. And from my perspective, banking is the fuel that makes the economy go. If you think about it, there's all these businesses in Columbus or wherever, and for them to transact business, whether it's digitally or cash or checks or whatever, they have to have an institution that helps them be able to do business with their customers. Obviously, we all understand borrowing money when we're buying a car or whatever. They also, at times, need help to buy something that they may not have enough cash for. And so, if you think about it, if the banks are in the middle of that, they're helping both sides. They're helping that company be able to transact business with their customers, and they're helping that business grow if they need to borrow money to be able to do whatever it is they want to do next. And so, to me, the cool thing, probably y'all think banking's boring. It might be. It might be not the most exciting thing in the world, but I will tell you, in my career, the opportunity to go visit a manufacturing company or go talk to a business that's on Main Street and hear them tell their story about it. This is my dream. This is how I'm trying to make a living for my family. This is how I'm trying to make a difference in my community. And you kind of get to be the juice. You kind of get to help be a part of their vision and help them succeed. I've even, most of y'all wouldn't know who Jimmy Blanchard is, but he was the CEO of Synovus for years from Columbus, and one of the words he used to use was that banking's a noble endeavor. Because you have the opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. Banking to me is the balance between being a business person, which y'all are all in business school, so you're thinking about going into business. It's this neat crossroads of being a business person and being a servant for people's financial needs, helping them succeed. So one of the things that Kessel Stelling, our current chairman and CEO, has said is that strong communities tend to have strong banks. They go together. And of course, we all hope that Columbus is a strong community over time and that banking plays a role in that. So about Synovus, I'll give you my quick story on Synovus just in case you don't totally understand it. It started here at CB&T 125 years ago. That's a long time. It's built over the years through acquisition, whatever, to be in 5 states. We're kind of a balance between a small bank and a big bank. We've got a lot of the technology the bigger banks would have, but if you've seen how CB&T and Synovus sponsor stuff around Columbus, we really are community related, so we try to be that hometown bank to folks. That's one of the reasons I've been there 28 years. That's a long time to be with one company, and it's because of my buying into the vision that if we're going to be in banking, we're going to do what we can to make our communities better. I think that one of the cool things that I'm pretty proud of for us, because I think when you talk about the future of your life, having integrity, it's a really big deal, and Synovus was named the #1 most reputable bank in the country by the Reputation Institute. So, maybe that sounds like bragging, sorry, but you try to do the best you can. I'm gonna come back to that bragging thing in a minute. Interestingly, the CB&T Bank name has been around that whole 125 years pretty much, and we're about to go to one brand called Synovus for all the footprint. So what you may not know is Synovus is the holding company that owns CB&T and other banks, but we're CB&T here, we're SB&T in Albany, Georgia, we're First Community Bank in Tifton, etc. And back in the day that was helpful because most banking was local, but in this world of technology and everybody being so mobile, it was confusing sometimes because if you decided to move from Columbus to another town, you're like, I didn't know those two banks connected to each other, so we're about to just call ourselves Synovus across the board, and I think that's going to be a really, really neat thing. Matter of fact, we're going to change the signs here in Columbus in January, I think, so that's coming up pretty soon. Enough about Synovus, enough about me. When Lynn and I were talking, one of the things that I wanted to do, because when I was sitting in y'all's shoes, I don't know that I had a lot of advice about, what helps shape a successful career, what are attributes that could help me be more likely to get promoted, what have you. And so I've got a handful of leadership and career thoughts. So some of them may be hokey, some of them you may have heard before, but they're important to me, and I would ask you to contemplate them later and think, you know what, I get that. Like I said, some of them are really basic, but what I found in 28 years of being at my own company that happens to be banking, but so interacting with my coworkers and also watching other businesses do what they do, a lot of times it's the simple stuff that makes a difference. So the first thing I wrote down when I was thinking about these talking points was, and what I typed was I said, treat people nicely, dash all people. And so I think sometimes we get caught up in treating people nicely that we think can give us something, or somebody can get us down the road a little further, or maybe we think there's somebody important that'll help us get whatever, like I always was trying to suck up to my professors because I thought they might help me out, so maybe it wasn't totally sincere, I don't know. But I can't tell you how many times, especially for someone like me that's moved around Synovus. I've moved 3 times for Synovus. So I was here in Columbus part of the time. I ran a bank for us in North Florida for a while. I ran a bank for us in Albany, Georgia for a while, and I've been back here again, so I've kind of come full circle about 3.5, 4 years ago in a more corporate role. And I can't so if you're in an organization 28 years, you're going to kind of meet people along the way, right? You just meet people, but you may not see them for years. I can't tell you how many times when because it was foundational to me that I would run into a loan clerk or someone who was more of a backroom worker bee kind of person that just went about their daily job, and some people I wouldn't have seen for 5 years, and they would remember me because I was nice to them. Now it's so basic. Now there's days when I have bad days, I'm not nice to anybody, so nobody's perfect. But I'm just telling you, certainly you want to be nice to people because it's the right thing to do, but I'm telling you, it pays it forward later. The opportunity for you to get benefit later is a big deal, I'm just saying. One of my sayings over time that I have tried to, when I've coached teams that work for me, is the phrase that I call confident humility. Maybe you've never heard that before, but it's my way of saying I want to be self-confident, but I want to present myself in a humble way. Now, one of the jokes I've been known to say is as soon as you tell somebody I'm humble, you're kind of bragging about it, so maybe you're not that humble. So you got to be careful about how you present that. But so here's the thing. I think there's a misconception that if you're going to be confident and you're going to be, in charge, that you got to be a little bit of a jerk. And you got to kind of step on people, and you got to show people who's boss. And if you're humble, you got to be a doormat. And you got to just sort of be all passive and, sort of take what comes your way. And I would tell you, I think both of those are totally false. You absolutely can stand your ground, and you can have self-confidence. You can have expectations to be treated right, but you can carry yourself in a humble way that I think sometimes people talk about the difference between being aggressive and assertive. Maybe y'all have heard those words before. And I would just tell you, that's one of the things that I try to, I've just seen too many people, when they get in a place of authority, they get in a place of power, they get kind of cght up in themselves. And that really rubs me the wrong way. And so I would tell you, don't be a doormat, but don't present yourself as how much cooler you are than whoever that is. Obviously, you've heard do the right thing before. One of my favorite quotes is from Abraham Lincoln. And one of his sayings was, character is like a tree, and reputation is like its shadow. The shadow is what we think of it, and the tree is the real thing. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you a little bit? What he's saying is, your reputation can be based on false pretense. Character is what you really are. So doing the right thing is what you should be doing. So in your job, I'll say this, I've seen too often employees sort of wait back for, tell me what to do. Maybe being passive, maybe being lazy. They don't want to take on any more work than they have to. And what I would suggest to you when you're out in the working field is, if you're trying to move up the totem pole, you're trying to make a career, you're trying to impress your boss, one of the things I would suggest you do is you go to your supervisor and ask for more to do when there's not a need yet. Because what that shows, it shows initiative. And if you just wait around until somebody says, hey, go do this, you're not going to impress them. You might do a good job and it'd be all right, but the other thing I would tell you is take on work others may not want to do. How often have you said, I'm sure I'm glad so-and-so's doing that, not me? Maybe. But I'll tell you this. I got 3 examples of when I did something in my career that others kind of were like, ooh. And I sucked it up, and I sacrificed. So one I remember is I was, so this is 20-some years ago, and maybe credit analysis, which is that underwriting financials, was not seen as important back in the day. You wanted to be in sales, and I'd been in the branch network for a while, and I got tapped on the shoulder. Truth is, in today's world, credit analysis is seen as one of the quickest paths to being successful because it means you know what you're talking about. Back then, it maybe wasn't as important or wasn't viewed as important. And I remember at CB&T, I was one of the first people that didn't get hired as a credit analyst straight out of college. I started in sales in the branches and went to credit analysis. And I tell you, my friends thought I had lost my mind. They said, what did you do wrong? Are you in trouble? But I had the courage, I guess, to say, I'm going to go do this credit analysis job for a couple years and kind of get off grid from y'all's perspective, because I think it's going to pay me dividends later. So I took that leap of faith, and it paid off. Another time is I was asked to go be a bank president for Synovus at an early age. I was 31 years old. And it was to go run the bank in Quincy, Florida. Y'all ever heard of Quincy, Florida? Little tiny town right outside Tallahassee. So other than I was almost, to the promised land with Florida State football, Quincy didn't have a whole lot going on. Quincy was a really small town. The economy wasn't that great. So maybe you could perceive it to be hard to grow the business, which when you're in sales, you're trying to grow the business. Well, so the truth be known is at 31, it was a great opportunity for me to go be a bank president, right? I mean, heck, I was 31. Well, I was also smart enough to know the reason they called a 31-year-old to move to Quincy is because nobody else wanted to go, right? I had so let's see, I was 31, I had a 1-year-old. My wife's parents retired here. They built a house here. 90 days later, I said, oh, we're moving to Quincy. Oh, man. That was bad, let me tell you. We can talk about marriage if you want to while we're here about. So the point I'm making is we made a family sacrifice to move to this town that maybe didn't have the best business case to it because we were willing to do something somebody else didn't want to do. The other thing I'll tell you is, I mentioned earlier, asset disposition. So I think you remember during the economic crisis, 2008, 2009, 2010, the world was imploding. All these investment banks were going broke. Well, regular community banks like us were having a hard time. A lot of real estate went bad. And so I was still the president of the bank in Albany. That was my full-time job. And they said, hey, we need you to coordinate across the whole Synovus footprint, helping us dispose of bad assets. So get rid of bad real estate that's gone broke. I remember my boss saying, okay, here's what I need you to do. I need to be the president of this bank in Albany 80% of the time and I need you to be this asset disposition guy the other 80% of the time. I was like, hold up, that's 160% of the time. It doesn't add up. And yet, I knew that even though it was stressful, it was a terribly difficult time, I knew by me taking this on that other folks wouldn't really want to do, it would help my career. Well, fast forward, I went from running that bank in Albany to, as this disposition story settled down and the economy got better and Synovus got on its feet, here I am today, and I'm managing whatever it is, 11 or 12 bank CEOs around a footprint. Now, there's not always cause and effect, but I'm just telling you, I did stuff other people didn't want to do, and my bosses saw it, understood it, and appreciated it, right? Because guess what? My boss didn't want to do it either. That's why they were dumping it on me, right? But it paid off. Be prepared, right? Y'all probably heard about that. That's like doing your homework or studying for a test. I still remember when I was a junior commercial banker and we went on a call in Atlanta. By the way, if y'all hear I'm stuffy, I had sinus surgery like 2 weeks ago, so I'm a little clogged up still. But anyway, so we're on this call in Atlanta, and we're with my boss. We're going to see this neat manufacturing company, but you're going to call on them. You're a banker, so you know you're going to be talking about what are your business needs, whatever. He gets out of the car, I get out of the car. I just get out of the car with my suit, and I'm looking good. And he's like, where's your notepad? How are you going to take notes when we start asking this guy questions? I was like, oh, crap. Of course, he had his notepad because he knew what he was doing. I still remember to this day. I mean, that's probably, I'm going to say that was in 1996. So here we are in 2017. I still remember how stupid I felt that day because I was not prepared. I didn't think ahead enough to be ready to go do my job. The other thing, so I only got a few more of these. Be patient. Not that I always was, but I'll tell you this, to be at one company 28 years, that's a long time, right? Y'all hear about everybody switches jobs like every 2 years, and most of my friends have worked like 7 different places, and I'm probably an anomaly now that I've been with the same company my whole adult life. But I'll tell you, there were numerous times during those 28 years when I was sitting there thinking, golly, what's next? What am I going to do next? I'm kind of stagnant. I'm ready to do something else. And it would have been so easy for me to dust my resume off. Could have probably gone and made $1 more an hour somewhere and jumped ship and gone to whatever. And I was going to tell you that, and certainly there are bad work environments and it's time to go work somewhere else. I'm not saying you don't go work somewhere else. But chasing the next nickel or getting frustrated with your current position, I have found that being a little bit patient and doing the best I can has ended up giving me more opportunity through what I'll call the loyalty factor with my organization. So certainly if you have a better opportunity, you should chase it, but don't be careful when you get out in the workforce that you don't every little bit say, holy cow, I think I can go make $3 more a week. I think I'm going to go jump over there. Just I would tell you, be careful about that. Let's see what else I want to say. Next thing I want to mention to you, I just got a couple notes here I'm thinking about. Y'all ever heard the Starfish Story?
Oh, yeah. I think I did.
So I learned this story, actually this would have been the mid-90s, late 90s, I don't know, probably late 90s. I was somehow tapped to help coordinate orientation as a sideline. So new employees would come on and we would tell them all about Synovus, whatever, and one of the stories we would tell people was, we called it the Starfish Story, and it revolves around making a difference. And so here's my quick story. There was there had been a hurricane had come through this beachfront town a couple of days before, and so this elderly gentleman was walking down the beach, and so all the starfish, amongst other things, had washed up on shore. It was just a mess. And so the gentleman's walking down the beach, and he's bending over, and he picks a starfish up, and he throws it back in the water, and he walks a little further, picks another starfish up, throws it out in the water, and this is his day. He's just doing that for the day, and people are like, what is he doing? And so this other person came up to him and said, what are you doing? Are you just bored? I mean, what's going on? And the guy said, well, I'm just throwing these starfish back, and I'm just trying to give them an opportunity to survive. And you look down, you think about the beach, it just goes on for miles usually. You go visit the beach, you just see sand forever, right? And so this person's looking down the beach, and they're like, man, there's a gazillion starfish down this beach. You cannot possibly make a difference. There's no way, because you're only one person. And so he picks up a starfish, he throws it back in the water. He said, I bet it made a difference with that one. Right? So all I'm saying is that you can make a difference, even if it's a little difference. You ain't got to, change the world. Don't sell yourself short. So the other stuff, I don't know how long I've been talking, probably not very long, but the other thing I wanted to talk about is, and maybe this is closer to your real life coming up, any of y'all getting close to graduating. So what do I look for when I'm hiring people? What am I scoping out on y'all if you're sitting in front of me and you're wanting to come on board with Synovus or wherever you're going to work? What's important to me? And I'm going to tell you, what's important to me is not unique. I might say it my own way. But so I'm going to give you my 2 cents on what I think is important when you're trying to make that impression, when you're trying to get in the door. Because I assume y'all like CSU, but this isn't your hobby. I assume you're here because you want to go get a paycheck. I'm just guessing. So, when you come sit in front of me, some of these are hokey, but I'm going to say I want you to dress appropriately. That sound silly? So, you want to look your best, right? I put on my best suit for y'all today. I could have worn my junk suit, but I wore my nice suit for y'all. So, I'll tell you this though, I was getting ready this morning, and dressed appropriately can mean different things. Certain jobs mean you should put a suit on. Certain jobs don't have to, but I'll just leave it general. You want to have your right look going on. Well, so today, I'm getting ready home this morning. I look down at my dress shoes. If y'all look real close at them, you can probably see that don't look real good. So here I am today, and I'm this executive. I'm supposed to impress y'all, and I'm looking down at my shoes. And I'm like, dang, I hadn't shined my shoes lately. And sole dressing, you put it around the edge of it, right? So it looks black, it looks finished. Well, I don't look right today. So here I am. I'm 50. I'm old as dirt, and I'm supposed to have my act together. I'm showing up talking to you, and I don't have my shoes like they're supposed to be. So as nitpicky as that sounds, that's my point. Is think about before you go out in public. What am I going to look like? Am I going to present myself in a way that looks right? Yeah? I'll tell you a specific example. Recently, we were interviewing, it wasn't me specifically, so some of my people were interviewing for a semi-entry level job. This was going to be credit analysis, I mentioned that earlier, underwriting for a team of bankers. And this is the feedback I got from my folks when I said, hey, how'd the interviews go? And these are people that we were talking to that were early 20s, mid-20s at the latest. Y'all excuse me while I'm trying to keep it going here. So these people in their mid-20s, early 20s, I'm pretty sure that feels similar to some of y'all. And I said, well, how'd it go? And they said, well, you know what? Most of them sounded pretty good, but we had this one that showed up in the suit, another one showed up in the golf shirt. I don't think the guy in the golf shirt really cared too much. I was like, really? That's your feedback to me? Not that, that they're a 4.0 in accounting? And they're like, no, yes. It just appeared to me that the person that showed up in the suit had the game face on and wanted to come work for us, and the guy in the golf shirt was just kind of cruising. Is that hokey? I don't know. Y'all allowed to dress casual, right? Today, you're students, you're in school, that's no big deal. But when you're trying to, get in the game, just think ahead. Okay, so the next thing, when I'm hiring, I want to see enthusiasm without spazzing, right? I kind of want it somewhere in the middle. I don't want you sitting there like, dude, what am I doing here? But I also don't want you, like all jittered up and, I want to see you have your act together, but I want to see enthusiasm. I want you to present to me that you really want to be here because you're pitching me. I know that's not that comfortable. So here's another one. Show me you know a little bit about my company and my industry. So let's just use Synovus for example. Let's say you're going to be interviewing for that underwriting job at the bank, and you're going to come see me. How hard would it be for you to Google Synovus.com, go to the investor relations page, and kind of get a feel for what's our stock price been doing, what's going on there, and then probably Google banking industry and say, well, what's going on in the banking industry today, good, bad, and ugly? How hard would that be? Well, you show up my office and you go, you know what? Let me tell you this, let me tell you that, I'm gonna go dine. Okay. You've gotten ahead of me a little bit because you know something about what we're trying to do. So it's not that hard, but it helps make you look smart. The other thing is, I bet every single interview you ever go to, at the very end of it, here's what I'm going to say. After we're done talking, you've said what you want to do and how awesome you are and all this stuff, I'm going to look up and say, well, you got any questions for me? It's going to happen every single time. And what you going to do? Nah, I'm good. You say, nah, I'm all right. I got it. I'm going to say, well, okay, well, they were ready to leave, I guess. What you do is, before you come see me, you have in your brain, you do a little, it probably goes back to understanding the industry stuff. You get yourself 2 or 3 boilerplate questions in the back of your mind that you want to ask me. So let's go back to Synovus. You might say, well, Mr. Lane, well, you can call me Mark. So Mark, Mr. Mark. He talked from South Georgia saying Mr. Mark. Tell me, why do you think Synovus' stock price done so good lately? Whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It's just have a couple of questions that are specific to what we're trying to talk about, because I'm going to say, okay, this person must really care. And plus, they're making me not feel stupid because I just said, you got any questions for me? And then you're like, I don't care. So here's one. Turn your phone off. Right? I've been looking around to see who was over there surfing while I was talking to you. I don't think the lights are too bright here, so I can't see the screen shining up in your face. That's why, so a public speaker always knows if people are really watching you, you have your phone light down here. But if the room's dark, you know, you're shining like a spotlight on your face, and I know you're over there blowing me off anyway. So while I'm here, I got my phone, it's in my pocket. Well, guess what I did? Before I came in this room, I put it on airplane mode. Now, I know when you're interviewing with me, you're not going to say, hold up, dude. You know, you're not going to talk to anybody. But guess what? I'm going to hear it vibrating in your pocket. I'm just going to hear it. You're going to hear it. You're going to be cringing because, you know, your brain thinks, I got to check that phone because that's what you do 800 times a day. So as nitpicky as that sounds, see, I see him looking at his phone right now back there. So while he didn't even catch me. So while you're talking to me, if that thing starts buzzing, and usually when you're interviewing, you know, we're like right here. Right? I mean, we're pretty close. We're desk to desk, chair to chair, so I can hear that vibrate. Now I want to pick it up. You know, I'm used to thinking, oh, somebody's calling. And if I hear that buzzing, it kills your mojo. Even if you don't mean to, because I know you're not going to look in there and try to peek and see, because you probably, if you set it on buzzer, it's not only going to do a call, it's going to do it in a text, right? It's going to have that little buzz, and I'm going to think, do you get it? So my 2 cents is, you're going to be talking to me for 30 minutes, whatever, put it on silent, then I know I got your attention, and neither one of us are going to feel awkward. All right, so that's actually all I got to say. What I'll do is take any of your questions, talk about anything you want to. I had a couple other stuff in here, but I didn't want to bore you. I can talk, I can wing and talk as long as y'all want me to. That's another thing, be quick on your feet, right? So, yeah, hold on, I got to make one smart aleck comment before you ask a question. So what I just do at the end of this interview, y'all got any questions for me? So if you don't ask me any, I'm going to know y'all didn't want to talk to me, so you get an A.
During the interview, what's an appropriate way to ask about compensation and benefits for the company?
Yeah, so, okay, first disclosure, I don't work in HR. HR probably telling me, be careful, I don't know. And I think it depends on the interview, because there are different stages of interviews. You know, it's not totally unusual that you can have the initial interview that is everybody kind of kicking tires and getting a feeling for, is this a fit? Do I feel good about it? And if it's more about fact finding, then that's not really the time to start talking about that. But there absolutely is a fair way, if you're getting close to saying, you can feel the vibe. There's cautious way to talk about compensation. And what I would tell you is, it kind of goes back to that confident humility I mentioned earlier. You got to find the right way to word it that says, hey, I'm not trying to be cocky and say, you better pay me or I'm out. You know, it's saying, hey, can you help me understand, you know, how y'all's package works here, just so I can go to school? And what does that include? Things like pay and health benefits and whatever. I mean, it's not a perfect way to say it.
So I'm graduating with like a marketing degree in December, but
Yeah.
thinking of finance and accounting. I was going in with a different degree for that field. Like, how much of a challenge?
Well, so here's the thing. I'm gonna guess in a marketing degree you still took some core business classes that probably had a finance feel to them or had a. And the reality is, even within banking, so within banking, you think about it. So I know, so maybe that's a good little lesson learned for me, so you're teaching me. So what I talked about most of the day is only what I know, right? Because that's who I am. Well, I'm a commercial banker at heart, so I'm a numbers guy. Now, I'm in sales, so I'm kind of a BS or two. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that, Linda. I'm not going to tell you what BS means, I don't. So, but in banking, I mean, we got an IT department. You know, that's just straight up technology. We got human resources. We actually have a marketing department. Matter of fact, I met with them. I'm trying to, long story short, I'm trying to grow a certain market that's not in Columbus. And we're trying to figure out how to put a package together to help make a splash in that community so we can go win some business. And I was meeting with my marketing folks. The other thing I'll tell you is in banking in general, so if you're in retail, or even if you're in commercial banking, you're still selling. In marketing, even though there's certainly a specificity to marketing that is about preparing documentation, collateral that helps you tell a story, it's still part of the sales process. So if you want to go straight from marketing into, let's say, underwriting and grind on financial statements every day, I'm just going to give you my guess as a marketing person, that's not going to sound awesome to you. But there's plenty of sales-related, leadership-related stuff where you get to use some of your marketing skills, so it's not a stretch to me. Yeah.
Feedback off of that background in marketing.
Yeah.
And you might as well say I'm local to here, so I know CB&T.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have recently done some rebranding to try to get Synovus more Synovus.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Be more Synovus.
Sure. At a regional level, for the marketing person, what are some of your expectations of your marketing team to rebrand something like that?
Well, I mean, honestly, when you're talking about rebranding Synovus, we're in 5 states. Remember, you got to work with me, so you got to go back, 10 or 15 years ago when mobile banking didn't exist and hometown really felt hometown. We have 28 different brands because we say Columbus Bank and Trust is hometown for here, and First Community Bank is hometown for Tifton. So the idea of rebranding to our holding company's name of Synovus Cross Footprint is a monumental change. So our marketing group has been engaged with numerous vendors that are outside sources, that whether that's helping us, when we came up with the Bank of Here slogan, we had an outside marketing agency help us create that. I mean, heck, think how many signs we got to change. Don't even ask me how much. So we've got a vendor helping us with that. So there's been, interesting you ask it. So even though I'm I run production, if you will. So I run bankers. I'm actually on the branding committee. So I represent the field in that branding group. So I've sat in a lot of meetings with the people who know what they're talking about. But I'm a little bit of the conscience saying, all right, now I'm the one that's got all the customers. Let's talk about how that really plays. And so I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but in the end, it's all about being prepared. You'd be amazed at the effort we put forth to make sure we don't drop the ball. So, yeah.
My degree here is a pursuit of management. And my question is, compared to being the bank president of a singular branch, where you are working hands-on with bankers day-to-day, actually managing,
Yeah.
how much different is it at your position now, where are you managing hands-on people throughout the day? Are you focused more in on just working towards the big picture goals like rebranding the entire region? Because I have an apprehension of the desire to lead other people. I don't want to manage. And
So
so
you're saying you want to go win business, but not necessarily manage people? Is that what you said?
yeah,
Make sure I understand it.
it's my consideration.
Yeah.
Should I look for anything greater than a bank president if it is not my desire to be hands-on with a very wide range of people?
Yeah. Well, you know, in the very end, forget banking for a second. Do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because I have grinded for 28 years. And there's days I didn't like banking. Of course, there's days every job you don't like it. I bet you if I put Linda under oath, she'd say there's days being the dean gets old. I'm just going to guess. So what I would tell you is there is absolutely a roadmap to success being what I call a producer. So banking customers, and listen, so if you could run a branch. So one of the CB&T branches, and you'd have a group of tellers, you'd have some personal bankers, maybe a consumer banker working for you. You're still managing a team. It may not be a huge team, but you're managing a team, and so you got to have leadership skills to help keep them motivated and doing it the right way and whatever. But you would also have a customer base. There's also a style that says maybe you want to be a consumer banker where you don't manage anybody, but you just deal with customers all day, or a commercial banker, banking businesses, and you're out, you know, on the streets talking to business about how to do better. So there's different paths to success. Your beginning of your question about where I spend most of my time, the challenge for somebody like me is I can get by default way too caught up in firefighting. So if you think about my geography, it goes from LaGrange down through Columbus, all South Georgia, Dothan, Tallahassee, over to Pensacola. Sometimes I can't remember where I was yesterday. And so now it can be exciting to watch a local market leader make it happen and be successful. So I spend a lot of time helping them think through hurdles or problems, dealing with stuff. But you know, if you don't have a desire to manage a pile of people, you can still be successful. There's plenty of ways to win in banking. Yes, sir.
Going back to what you were saying, like when you were working 160% in your job, do you have any tips for balancing the work life and your family life like that? That's a great question.
I'm pretty sure if we're going to talk about that period of time, I need my wife up here. Because she's going to say I was a fool, I think. You know what? You know, the joke about the 160%, I actually don't think it was a joke. I think if that had turned into my career in perpetuity, I'd have quit. But I also realized the United States was in the ditch, the economy was in the ditch, banking was in the ditch, and I truly, first of all, I knew either we're going to clean this up in some period of time or we're dead. So I made the conscious decision to say, I know this is going to be a sacrifice, because I did it for 2 years. So this is back to my wife wanting to kill me. So had 3 kids at home. They would have been, let me think about that. I don't know. They would have been 15 and 13 and 10 or whatever. So they were busy, you know, lots of kid stuff going on. And during that, it was probably a year and a half. I spent, lived in Albany, hour and a half down the road. I probably spent 2 nights a week in Columbus, every single week for a year and a half. So Mama felt like a single mom a lot of the time. But that was kind of, the best way I can put it since we're near Fort Benning is that was my tour of duty. I'll get you a second. That was my tour. I knew for my loyalty to Synovus, for the benefit of my career long term, and you think about it, if Synovus didn't succeed, there's 4,000 employees that are going, uh-oh. And I just made the conscious decision for me that I was going to sacrifice and suck it up for that finite period of time, bless you, and deal with it, because it's what I needed to do. You can't do 160% forever, or you'll burn out. And so I'll say this, one of the cool things about Synovus is, so in today's world where I have a little better work balance opportunity, because I don't travel quite, a lot of my stuff's by phone. I am on the road some, but I'm at a point in my career now where if one of my kids has a basketball game, I'm going to slip out and go take that basketball game out and work late if I have to. I'm gonna find ways to be there for my kids and family. So, I mean, it's not perfect. What you ultimately have to decide is if somebody is going to take advantage of you and you just know your job is going to be overwhelming forever, be careful. If you can dial in, you know it's finite. Sometimes, like I said earlier, I did that 160% for a couple of years, and it gave me a lot of opportunity afterwards because they appreciated it. Yes, sir.
What changes Synovus Bank implemented to adhere to the Dodd-Frank?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What changes did Synovus Bank implement to adhere to the Dodd-Frank law?
Oh my gosh. That's almost as illegal as the Florida State questions. So I can answer it generally. I'm not in compliance, so I'm probably the guy that compliance is saying, would you quit doing that? But I mean, ultimately, there were numerous changes that a lot of it has to do with reporting. Where the CFPB is the, I always forget what it stands for. It's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So it's basically part of government that is there to make sure that the banks don't take advantage of folks, in its simplest form. But there absolutely were regs that said you got to do this differently, or you're not allowed to charge any more than X for this service, and so most of the work we did was to enhance reporting, actually spend a bunch of money having compliance employees on staff with us to make sure we report to the government appropriately, that we are playing by the rules, if you will. I mean, I know it's not a really super detailed answer, but I mean, we spend a lot of time studying up on that stuff to make sure we don't mess up. Yes, ma'am.
What are your daily tasks at Synovus as the CEO of regional?
Whatever it is I do?
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
I just talk. So, I mean, it's a myriad of things. So this morning, I was, when I was typing the speech this morning, in between working on what I was going to say today, let's see, I had a conversation with one of my lieutenants about a $3 million loan in one of our markets. And we were talking about pricing and can they pay us back kind of stuff. So that was 5 minutes talking about that. And then dealt with a couple of emails related to us trying to find some office space in another town because we're trying to grow our presence. So sometimes my job's a little bit nebulous. I mean, maybe the more promoted you get and I'm trying to help other people win. Now there's absolutely times I'm calling a market leader saying, what the heck are you doing? You know, step it up, whatever. There's other times I'm calling somebody and saying, that was fantastic. So my job, I'm not actually personally lending money to people anymore. I don't have direct customers. I'll interact with customers on the side. I'm not answering your question. So, I'm old. So you might want to talk back to when I was 30 and I managed a team and you spend your, I mean, ultimately, any job you take, you really want to study, you want to ask for, maybe I should have said that earlier, when you're interviewing for the job, you want to ask for the job description. What is it I'm really doing? Beyond what you're just kind of telling me, what does it feel like I'm going to be doing every day? But what I do is probably not that different than an executive that's in a different industry would do. When you get up to a certain level, it's about fighting fires for people, fixing hurdles, fixing roadblocks, holding people accountable to perform at their highest level. Think about a head football coach that, they got to make sure blocking and tackling's happening like it's supposed to, that the quarterback has a good arm, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're trying to help other people succeed. I spend a lot of my time doing.
What about allocating resources within your division? How do you go about that?
Keep it secret. Then nobody knows that I hosed somebody and gave somebody else more money. I'm kidding. So, budgeting, just think about your personal checking account. Budgeting's a pain in the butt, right? We all wish we had more money. And guess what? It's the same thing at the bank. I wish I had a bigger budget to help my folks be able to market more or whatever. But ultimately, it's about analyzing possibility for returns. So for instance, let's just use common sense. If one of my smallest markets, so I won't use one of my markets, so y'all might go tell them. So let's say we had a budget and we had to kind of divvy it up between Atlanta, little Quincy, Florida that I mentioned to you, and Jacksonville. And we said, we only got this much money, so how are we going to divvy it up? And we would say, and by the way, in Atlanta, we're 4th market share, so we're kind of in 4th place. There's 3 banks that have more customers than us. In Quincy, we're just straight up number 1 market share. And in Jacksonville, we're like 15th market share. Do I want to give a bunch of money to Quincy? No, I mean, you already got everybody, kind of. And it's not, I already told you earlier, y'all go call the Chamber of Commerce in Quincy, they're going to shoot me. There's not that much opportunity there. Now here's what's interesting. So you might say, well, dang, spend all your money in Jacksonville, right? I just said you're 15% market share. That's where you really got to make some hay. Well, what I would tell you is, in Jacksonville, I won't get this right, but in Jacksonville, we probably have 4 branches. And even though we're 4th market share, in Atlanta, we got 40 branches. For today, I might spend more money in Atlanta because I got so much more traction that if I allocate more resources there, I got a better opportunity to win. I mean, in Jacksonville, I only got 3 locations, but you can't hardly find me. So, you know, I use those specifics to say generally you're trying to use data to help you drive a good decision based on what your opportunity is, what your budget is, what have you. Yeah.
Yeah. As you were actually growing with the company Synovus, you said you were actually quite stretched thin with your employment here, there, and everywhere else.
Sometimes.
How do you find the time there then to actually study informally or formally so that you are more ready or better prepared for the next level of management, the next step in your career path?
Yeah, well. So I think how I'd answer that is, I mean, the truth is you can spend a whole lot of time with your family and be broke. And you can spend no time with your family and make a bunch of money. In finding that balance, everybody kind of has their own work-life balance. As far as training goes, a lot of it's on the job training. You learn by messing up. Just like I didn't shine my shoes today. You know, some of it's on the fly. I'll get you. It's on the job stuff where you kind of, I call it osmosis. You just figure it out over time. I could do that better. If I needed to have kind of a tough conversation with you about, I need you to step it up. I say, I could have said that better, or I could have done that better. I'll also tell you that I have over the years, on occasion, been fortunate enough to go to leadership training for a week. Now that week after is tough because everything got left on tape. I'm probably back there checking my emails like I'm not supposed to in a leadership class because I can't get it all done. But I also have raised my hand in the past, and this is older, but I've raised my hand in the past. I wanted to take, this is going to sound so, now y'all know I'm an open book. I wanted to take an assertiveness class. Remember I told you earlier about assertiveness? And this whole confident humility deal? I was a little too close to the doormat style when I was younger. And so I actually asked Synovus, can I go to an assertive, and you've probably never heard of it, can I go to a third-party vendor, can I go off to an assertiveness training class where I can get some skills to help me understand the difference between passive versus assertive versus aggressive? And they said sure, because they bought into me. So, but bottom line is there's going to be times you sacrifice. There's times I work on a Saturday because that's just grind time. And there's times I don't work on Saturday because I'm good. Yeah, but.
How many frontline employees, I go see at the bank, do you know any of them by name?
I think it's because my stuffiness, I just can't hear good.
CEOs, any entry-level employees like the bank till I go see at the bank when I go to the bank?
Yeah, well, so here's what I would tell you. Not as much anymore because I'm so regional. But I can tell you when I was running the bank, so I certainly know a lot of administrative people, so maybe it's the same story but different folks. But when I was in Albany, so I was in Albany 10 years and I ran that bank, it had 5 locations, had numerous commercial bankers. I knew all the tellers' names because one of the things I would do, because I knew it was hard. I mean, you bring up a great thing. It's one thing to talk about how I'm going to be open book and I'm a good guy, but having the discipline to actually make it happen, you got to be deliberate. And so what I used to do in Albany, because I would sometimes not see that teller, right? Because I'm doing my thing. I had a routine that I had my assistant help me organize where I would have I would bring breakfast to every single branch on a quarterly basis. And so I'd go hang out with the crew and feed them breakfast. Now there's times we go like, ooh, I know you, just like we all do. You don't always get it perfect. And like I said, in my world today, I have that bank president that's in Albany that's spending those hours every day with them. But I certainly have, I know a lot of bankers all over the footprint. But the bottom line of what you're talking about, it kind of goes back to this, kind of doing the right thing, being humble, is giving people your time. Being nice to them. And we'd sit there and we'd talk about their kids and, eating bacon and eggs, and you're just talking about whatever they want to talk about. And what I made sure of is in those breakfast meetings, it was absolutely not a business meeting. So I didn't sit down and say, all right, tell me how many referrals you got this month, and did you balance last week, your teller drawer? No, it was, hey, how y'all doing? What can I do to make your life better? And of course I knew them, so yeah. Yes, ma'am. Uh-oh. Oh, she's standing up too.
I have a question for you. Can you talk just a minute about how you see the future of banking, given how so many banks have invested so much in real estate, you have so many branches, and given how so many of us, online banking and now with the mobile banking, not even going to the bank to deposit checks and doing it on your iPhone. Talk to us about what you see in the future about the expansion of banking in terms of real estate.
Yeah, I think it's a pain. That's what I think. So, it is absolutely, well, first of all, it's still necessary. But it's a little bit of an anchor around the industry because you've got, you'll see 2-story branches that got all these people in it, and ain't nobody going in there. I just said ain't, just so y'all know. I've been in Georgia a long time now. Excuse me, don't tell my mom she was an English teacher. So what's interesting is I remember, years ago, everybody said the check's dead. Check's going away, never gonna write a check. We know we still write checks. But I do think this. I think you're gonna find more and more technology in branches. There's already branches, probably in more metropolitan markets, that have a lot less people and a lot, have iPads in there where you can self-serve. Certainly, there's ATM machines now that you can deposit a check, you can get cash out, all that kind of stuff. What's interesting, it really is hard to prognosticate 10 years from now, but today, what's interesting is people don't go in the branch very much when they're a customer like they used to. Because we're all antisocial now, right? We just want to live through our phones. So if I ask you a question, if y'all had the choice, get out of your car, go in the branch, write a check, and say, would you cash your check because I need $100? Or you could slip through in your car while you're still listening to XM Radio Hits 1 and stick that card in the machine and get your $100 out. Which one y'all gonna do?
$100 on the machine.
Go on the machine, right? Mm-hmm. It's easier. I ain't got to talk to anybody. I don't have to show my ID. Speaking of IDs, fraud is terrible in banking. That's another story. But here's the thing. We still find that most people want to open their account in person. They still feel like I'm supposed to go sit down with that personal banker and get my paperwork done so I know I got an account open and I feel good that it's going to work. So I think long term, you're going to see branches feel more like storefronts, be a lot smaller, probably feel more like a Verizon building maybe. So I think they're still necessary, but we got too much square feet, we got too much dead space, paying too much in taxes in Muskogee County, Yeah, man.
How do you see Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies affecting traditional banking?
Oh man, throw me a curveball. So,
What was the question?
Bitcoin. He threw Bitcoin on me. Let me Google Bitcoin. I'll get back. So I'm gonna tell you a funny story because so I already told you I'm old. I'm worn out all the time because I work 160% all the time. And so I told myself I got to start going to a gym, right? I'm just exhausted all the time. I need to start working out, so I'll quit getting fat and all that. So the trainer I use you know, is this 30-year-old that does Spartan races and is totally obnoxious how good a shape he's in. It really gets on my nerves. And he was asking me about Bitcoin all the time. I'm like, dude, it sounds like a pyramid scheme to me. I don't know. So I'm joking with you, but I'm not an expert to tell you. It makes me nervous because it's not backed by any country. It just feels like it's this nebulous sort of, I hope this thing's worth something one day. But I realize when you throw your millennial hat on that the people seem to be interested in being able to do more direct business with each other. I'm not giving you a good answer. It's weird to me. But it is a real thing. What's fascinating to me is you got Jamie Dimon, who is the CEO of JP Morgan, you know, huge bank, and he's basically saying it's a fraud, don't do it. And you got Goldman Sachs researching whether they should open a department to deal with, is it called virtual currency? Not with the slang, I think that's what the word is for all of it. So all I would tell you is be careful. It makes me nervous.
Cryptocurrency, I think that's
yeah, you're right, cryptocurrency. I mean, it just feels like to me, so maybe if you could use the Bitcoin, because there's some value that makes it easier for you to buy something on eBay or buy something from somebody. But if you're buying and thinking, man, this stuff's going to be, I'm going to buy some Bitcoin because it's going to go up in value so much, I'm going to make some money on it, that makes me think like everybody was buying beach houses before the crisis and I went broke. I don't know. So if somebody else tells you I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about Bitcoin, I don't know, I would research it hard, and maybe somebody that's smarter than me could really help guide you on that. I like the dollar.
I agree with you.
Yeah, bud.
What makes Synovus better than the other banks in the region?
Man, you a tough guy, aren't you, man? I like it. Listen, I feel like I'm going to go work for you. He's like interviewing me over here. I'm sorry, bro. You said what makes Synovus what?
Better than the other banks, like maybe.
Because I'm there, bro. So, now you can tell I'm really from deep South Georgia. You probably had an executive up here say the word bro before. I probably shouldn't have. So yeah, don't tell Kessel I said all that stuff. So my pitch on that is kind of what I alluded to before. So we're in 5 states. We're 30 billion in assets, give or take a few billion. There are some national banks, and I'm not picking on them, but you got some really big banks that are way bigger than us. And then you also got some what I'll call locally owned, really small community banks that maybe have 100 or 200 million. So I'm saying we're 30 billion, they're 100, 200 million. And so the challenge is if you're a small branch network, kind of small bank, it's hard for you to afford all this cool technology we're talking about. And if you're a humongous bank, it's hard for you to be able to focus on understanding your community because you're just everywhere. And so our philosophy is let's be big enough where we can afford to do that next iteration of mobile banking or whatever technology stuff, but let's still have that market leader in Albany that lives there every day, goes to church every day, and really knows what's happening in Albany. They're a member of the Chamber of Commerce or whatever, and so we think we're sort of that hybrid style where we're not so small we can't afford to keep up with all the new stuff, but we're not so big that we don't know what everybody's up to. That's my feeling. And honestly, the true story is that's why I'm still here. I mean, 28 years is a long time to be with one company, and I could certainly go and work somewhere else. And I just bought into the vision that we do right. Somebody else had a hand up. I don't remember what it was now. You know, I get paid by the question. Let me keep going.
In Bitcoin.
In Bitcoin. Yeah, as far as you know, bud, I got a bunch of Bitcoin. I don't want you getting in on my turf. All good? Thank y'all. Appreciate it.